Let's welcome in Chris Broussard, who's covered the NBA and all sports for a long time. You can hear him on The Odd Couple at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, along with crazy Uncle Rob Parker nightly. And, of course, you see him on all of our TV shows on FS1. Chris, let's start with what we think is a pending announcement. And forgive me, I haven't received word that the votes are yet tallied. But there's an assumption that we're going to have an NBA regular season conclusion with 8 more games, and then potentially some play-in games, and then NBA playoffs with 7-game series with 16 teams, all in Orlando, concluding in October. If that is, in fact, what the NBA decides to do, what's your reaction?
I like it. I think they've done a great job, if indeed this is what happens, in a tough situation. There was talk, the play-in, for instance. There was talk about the 7th and the 8th seeds. Well, now it's just going to be potentially the 8th seed. I think that's fair. It would have been exciting, Doug. I would have been kind of hyped up to see the Mavericks and the other, teams for the 7th and 8th seed playing to be in a play-in, but it wouldn't have been fair to Dallas. They may even move above the 7th seed with the 8 games, but they were 10.5 games ahead of Portland, which is the 9th seed right now in the West. So it wouldn't have been fair to the Mavericks. It would have discounted what they'd done over the first 65 or so games of the season. So in just having the play-in with the 8 teams, I think that's more fair. I think they keep the 8th seed with an advantage in that you'll have to be beaten twice by the 9th seed or, whatever team you're competing with in the play-in. I think that's good. I think the 8 games is necessary, the 8 regular season games. I don't think you could jump right into the playoffs for a few reasons. One, I think it would increase the chances of injury if you go right into the playoffs. You need to play the 8 games to let the guys get in some semblance of basketball shape. And 2, these are the most important games of your season. You don't want teams – look, the quality of play is going to be lower anyway. We know that, Doug. But if you just throw them right into the playoffs, the quality of play for your most important games would be terrible. And now you give them a chance to develop some chemistry, get in some shape over these 8 regular season games. And then come playoff time, there'll be at least a higher quality of play versus just throwing them in there after 3 or 4 months off. So I think all things considered, they've done a good job with this.
Chris Broussard, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. What about the idea of having the NBA Finals up against the NFL, college football, and potentially a World Series?
I don't know what the alternative is. I get where you're coming from. They have to compete. Nobody wants to compete against football. Baseball, you don't mind competing with until the baseball playoffs and World Series. That's where people are really into it then. And so I get what you're saying, but what's the alternative? The only alternatives are you either shorten the preparation time, whatever type of training camp they'll have and things like that, which is not wise because then players could get injured and some guys could get injured for the following season, which you don't want. Or you take away the 8 games or shorten that. I don't think that's wise. I just spoke about why they need those regular season games. And then if you go to 3 or 5 game playoff series in some of the rounds, which I don't like that either because I think you want to keep it. You want to try to make it as legitimate as possible, as normal as possible to avoid the asterisks in everybody's mind. We know there's going to be an asterisk for a little while because it's such a different type of setup. But if you shorten the playoff series too much, there could be an asterisk for a lot longer in people's minds. No.
Listen, they're not going to shorten the playoffs. They need that to decide a true champion, but also for the money and the TV. Right. But if you're going to have these 8 games, start these 8 games 4th of July weekend. Like what? I understand.
But don't you? These guys have to get in shape, Doug.
Do you think they've all been? I want your honest.
No, I think they've been running. I think they've been jogging. I think they've been running. But that as well as anybody, that's not basketball.
I understand.
They need to play 5-on-5.
But let me check my calendar. It's June 4th. It's June 4th. If they're all at their facilities next Monday, and they have essentially a month or close to a month to be ready to play those 8 games, and then we all understand the only reason they're playing those 8 games is to get in shape further for the playoffs. Like, what are we waiting for? I honestly I don't understand. I agree it may take 2 months to get ready for the playoffs, but I'm not talking about the playoffs. I'm talking about those 8 games which you can space out and play your way into shape, which is what you'd be doing with training camp anyway. Like, do we have a 2 month lead up to the regular season anyway? I don't believe
guys. Guys usually start playing games, before training camp start. They'll play their 5-on-5. Guys play at UCLA and different parts of the country. Guys fly out and play. But I don't have a problem with it. I think, obviously Adam Silver is trying to be cautious. He was the first commissioner to stop playing. And we seem to have forgotten about the safety element from the pandemic. But I think that's still something that's very much on his mind.
All right, last thing. Drew Brees, he apologized today on Instagram. We'll, at the top of the hour, we'll give continued context to it because several of his other answers were actually completely different from how he answered in regards to the flag protest. But what's your reaction to what he had to say yesterday on Yahoo Finance?
Well, I think part of why it's such a huge response among players and other athletes is it would be huge no matter who it is. But Drew Brees is viewed as a man of high character. And if anybody was viewed as an ally of the African-American community and fighting for justice, it's a guy like Drew Brees. So to hear him say what he said, which in another context is fine. But what he did was he went this protest, if you will, from Colin Kaepernick was taken apart and misdirected because people tried to make it about the flag when it never was about the flag. In fact, Colin Kaepernick met, we all know, with Nate Boyer, former Army Green Beret, and Boyer suggested kneeling out of a sign of respect for the flag and for the veterans. And so that's what Kaepernick was doing. Kneeling's never been viewed as a sign of disrespect in our culture. And so he was kneeling for the flag to show respect to the veterans and all in the military, and yet just showing that I disagree with what's going on in our country. And still people turned it and made it about something that it wasn't. And so for, the President Trump and Vice President Pence, they made it about that and totally took the attention away from what this was really all about. And so for Drew Brees to kind of second that, that's what everybody is upset about. And I think rightly so, because it never was about the flag. Aaron Rodgers got it right.
Did his I got 20 seconds for you. Did his apology hit the mark for you?
I have not seen his apology. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment yet on that.
All right, we'll read it at the top of the hour. We'll give you a chance. In the meantime, Chris, take a listen to The Odd Couple every afternoon, 4 o'clock West Coast time, 7 o'clock East Coast time. Chris Broussard, you see him on all of our shows, Undisputed with Rob Parker on The Odd Couple. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.